Okay guys, we're continuing on with this transfer case rebuild. Again, we're working on Snuggles the Jeep parts here. And a lot of guys badmouth the emergency brake on these things. And I'm going to show you the things you're going to need to do to make it work right. They come in usually full of mud, grease, seal's been leaking forever. And then guys are complaining about them that they don't hold. So, you know that we put new shoe material on here. Very aggressive stuff. It'll lock up and hold real good. I just installed a brand new seal in there. And if your yoke has even a little bit of a groove in it, you can see on this one, I put a speedy sleeve on there. That is a very thin piece of stainless steel. And it goes over and it gives you a brand new seal surface. So, both of the yokes were messed up, and both of them have speedy sleeves on them. Now I'm confident that that's not going to leak. After you get that on, you're going to put your felt on there. That comes with your seal. And when that goes in, I'm certain that it won't leak. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, don't be afraid to adjust your shoes. You have right and left threads here, and you can get in there that you turn the drum a certain way so the holes are there, and adjust your shoes out, and just get it so that they're just lightly dragging, and then back off a little bit, and you'll have a good grab when you pull the handle on your brake. So that'll help out. A little bit of grease here, a little bit of grease on the thread, so they're going to work all the time. And then the next thing that the problem is the drum is usually in rough shape. Now this drum on here, I've got branches, rocks, mud, everything when I took this apart. The drum was in horrible shape. It had grooves in it, and I have it set up in the brake lathe, and we're going to go give that a cut. And if you have a good drum, good shoes, and a non-leaking seal, these are fantastic brakes. Give the handle a pull, and they always hold for me. But don't let them get away from you. If you know you've been through the mud and the rocks, get in there and hose that out and clean it out. And if it's real bad, pull the dry shaft, pull the drum, and really clean it out if you want your emergency brake to work. I always like to have them working in good shape so I can leave the vehicle, get out of it, and look at something. But these are all things you need to do. You need to have good shoes, no leaks, and a good drum. So let's head over to the brake lathe and take care of that drum. Okay, I think you can see how bad that drum is. It's not just dirty, but there's a deep groove right here. Almost like a rock got stuck in there and just gouged it out. But I've got our cutter set up, and we're going to go in there and take light passes and get a good surface. Make sure it's nice and round and no grooves, and that'll give us a good emergency brake. Okay, we're just going to take a light pass. You can hear it's not hitting all the way around. We have an out of round condition here. We're taking a light pass, slow speed. We don't want to overload the machine or heat up the drum. So we'll take this pass, and I'll probably make another one, but I'll show you the finished product when it comes off the lathe. Okay, the drum is starting to clean up, but if I turn it, you can still see we have that deep gouge in there. So we'll make another pass, see where we're at, and hopefully we'll get it on the next pass. I'll show you what it looks like when it comes off. Okay, we're on our third pass, and we have half a groove left, and we're just coming up to it now. I think we're going to eat it right up and clean it this time. We're just getting to it. And the cut sounds good. I believe we got the last of the groove out. And that is going to be a nice, perfectly round drum when we're done. Yeah, it looks good. So I'll take it off right after this pass, and we'll install it on the transfer case. Okay, there's our finished drum. We have a perfectly round drum now. No grooves. Smooth finish. That will, you know, the shoes will bite right into that. So I am confident as soon as he pulls the emergency brake lever and puts it into emergency brake mode, he'll be able to park this on a hill and the emergency brake will hold as long as the lever holds. These shoes are going to hold perfect on the drum. And if you guys are interested in having your emergency brake work, you've got to go through the steps, keep it in good operating order, keep it clean, start with a good drum, start with good shoes, and it will last a long time as long as you keep dirt and oil off those shoes. Okay, transmission and transfer case are now complete. I'm just getting it off the bench on this cart, and David has made a little transport cart for it for when he picks it up. David, if you're watching this, I am not going to fill the transmission or transfer case with lube. I'm going to give you a gallon of it when you get this situated in your frame and the engine is hooked up and the transmission transfer case are sitting in their proper position for running. I'm going to have you fill it then. So I will give you the lubricant to put in there. Don't just throw any old junk in there. I'll give you the correct stuff. And you could either fill the transmission, you could pull the top off and pour it right in there if you like. Transfer case, you could just pour it in there with a funnel and a hose. But it's a little thicker and than regular 90 weight, which a lot of guys use, which is incorrect for these. But just take your time once you get everything all in place. I'll do the same thing for the steering gear. I'll give you the proper lube for that, and I will give you the differential lubricant as well. And when they're hooked up to the springs, drive shafts are in, everything's at running position, just fill everything right up. So I will give you enough lubricant for everything, and this is ready to go. It's clean. You can paint this along with the rest of your chassis parts, and everything works good. I shifted everything. Transfer case shifts fine. Transmission shifts fine. Cover is good. Everything is back to factory specs, and you will get a lot of service life out of this. So I will get it situated in your cart, and I will move on to the axles. And I believe I should be on schedule for your trip when you come back up here again. But we could talk about that more in a few days. But I'm going to try and get everything squeaky clean today and start putting the axles together on Saturday. And hopefully by the end of next week when you're here, everything will be ready to go. Okay guys, we're pressing the studs out. I just cut the swedge part of the stud out. I got Matt on the press here, and he's working the studs out. There is one that's cut, and there goes the last stud in that one. So we're making progress. I'm going to go over to the drill press there and cut the front swedges now. Okay, we're just pulling the studs out of the jig. And in some of my earlier videos, you guys saw me with that jig. It's super easy for pressing the studs out. And Matt's going to set up the next one in there, and it registers perfectly. There's cutouts in there for the shape of the drum, and it's a heavy piece of steel and it works nice for pressing the studs out. Go for it, Matt. Okay, it's a nice solid base. You don't have to worry about putting a socket under there and having 3 hands to try and hold everything. Just put in that jig and get the press going, and that's how we get the studs out. Okay, we're just using a multi-spindle old drill press here, leather belt driven. Got my swedge cutter in there. You don't need anything fancy to do this. I know last time I cut them out in the mill, everybody said that, oh, I don't have a mill, I can't cut the swedges out. But you can see this old machine. And it just does a nice job. So I'll set up and I'll show you how we cut the swedges out again. Okay guys, we're going to cut the swedge out here. Hey, remember, if you just push this stud out through here, that part of the stud that they swedge to hold the drum on will make your hole oversized and you won't be able to put your stud back in there. Doesn't take much, and this is a dedicated swedge cutter specifically for doing that. You could do it with other stuff, but this works the best. Can you get a shot of that, Matt?
Yep. Hold on. Oh yeah.
Okay, so you just want to cut that little bit out. You know, when they put these together, they press that through the drums behind there. They come through with a mandrel, and they take what's left of the splines, and they kind of smush it in there. And if you press the stud out like that, it's just going to give you trouble, and you'll wind up ruining your hub. And you don't want to do that. So I got to do the fronts, and Matt's going to press the studs out, and I'll be right back with you. Okay guys, we got the moving along on the axles now. I got the front, I got new bearings, new cups. It's shimmed properly. I put it in the housing. We did a tooth pattern smear here. Everything is good. And the final thing we're going to do, now this axle has these lock clips on here, and I've talked about these a lot of times. Let's just see how we're doing here. You see that one, Matt?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You see what happens with these? That's 3. Look at this one. That's number 4 that's loose. Look at that one. That's 5. This one's real bad. That's 6. 7. 8. So every one of these is loose. And it's due to these little lock straps. The factory used them because they had poor quality bolts, and they were worried about the bolts getting out into the mix. Now here's the rear. Okay, and remember this one had the bolts get loose. So there's a replacement bolt. That's just a hardware store bolt they put in. There's another one. There's another one. So we know that even with these lock straps, the bolts still get out. I mean, these are all loose too. You know, so they're all loose. Even the new ones are loose. So, you know, I watch a lot of guys and they rebuild the rear ends and they're pretty proud of it, and they put it on YouTube and they're like, hey, I built my rear end and I bought some new straps and I'm putting them in. This is the worst thing you can do because your bolts will loosen up. For this strap to be able to bend a tab over, it has to be real soft, otherwise the metal would break. So you torque that down, the metal squeezes out, and you have loose bolts. And if you remember, this is what happens when a bolt gets out. It tears up the cover. Can you see the cover, Matt?
Yep.
It'll just start running around in there. So I know I said this a lot of times, and you could take my advice or not. It's up to you, but don't use the lock straps. Even if you put bolts without lock straps, that's fine. You've seen me safety wire them before. You've seen me address this situation a lot of different ways. But you could do what you like. I'm just trying to steer the few guys that want to do things right and not have problems down the road. Trying to show you guys what to do. So I'm going to take all these bolts out, throw the straps out, and put a modern bolt in there with Loctite and torque it, and that's all you need. Okay guys, got the bolts in. Red Loctite, 55 foot-pounds. This is a correct ring gear bolt. Don't use hardware store bolts. No lock strap. These will be here for the life of the axle. So we're just going to get this. We're just going to get this set in there, and we're going to put the caps on, and then we could do the knuckles and other stuff. But we're closing in on this front axle, and I'll keep you posted what's going to happen next. Okay guys, going to wrap it up for today. We've got our hubs cleaned, studs out, front and rear. Axle shafts are ready to be put new bearings on those new axle shafts. We've got our knuckles clean. I've got the spindles, bushings removed, and I'm going to move on to setting up the rear axle ring and pinion next, and then take care of all the hubs and knuckles and stuff like that. So that's it for today. I will be back with you shortly, probably next week sometime, or if I get some chance over the weekend. I'll get this rear axle ring and pinion set up, and I'll catch you on the next video. And as always, I appreciate you guys watching, and if there's anything you'd like to see in the future, just give me some ideas in the comments below. Okay, catch you on the next one.